E.N.D. here. With the release of Bloom Burrow scheduled for the beginning of August, Standard Rotation 2024 will kick in, and 4 sets: Innistrad Midnight Hunt, Innistrad Crimson Vow, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and Streets of New Capenna will rotate out. No doubt that these 4 sets, especially the latter 2, Kamigawa and Streets, have been an important source for any standard deck out there, and no one can deny how strong certain cards were. But which are the top 10 cards that we will surely not miss? Here I'm going to discuss cards that, let's say, everyone hated facing them, but at the same time everyone played them because of their strength in the format. Let's start. And I want to start with one honorable mention: the Streets of New Capenna hideouts, or better known as Triumphs. The triple fetchable cycle lands can produce one of 3 colors of mana, are fetchable by fetch lands, and if not needed, they can be cycled. Played in every 3 color plus decks, sometimes even found in 2 color decks, thanks to their versatility. The Streets of New Capenna hideouts, as per their predecessors, the Ikoria Triumphs, provide additional options when building certain decks, as they can serve as a source of multiple colors of mana and can be used as part of a land-based strategy. They ensure consistent access to different colors of mana in a deck with multiple color requirements. In 10th position, the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty cycle lands. 5 rare legendary lands with channel, 1 for each color, that enter the battlefield untapped, and we know how important that is, that you have access to mana ASAP. Plus, they have a channel ability that is very difficult to counter. The channel ability costs 1 generic mana less to activate for each legendary creature you control. From the day these legendary lands were spoiled, it was clear that this new cycle will be a very powerful one and will feature in a lot of decks. The opportunity cost of these lands is incredibly low, especially if you have legendary creatures in play, and this meant only one thing: whenever you face an opponent playing any deck of 1 color or more, be sure that during your game you will face, one way or another, at least one of these lands. In 9th position, the Enchantment champions, Jukai Naturalist, Generous Visitor, and Kami of the Transscience. There was a time when a Naya enchantment deck dominated Standard. That was a time when Rune 4 Champion and his Rune enchantment auras were still legal. That deck, when started to combo, it was nearly unbeatable. Nowadays, that deck is still functional thanks to Kalix Guided by Fate. Jukai Naturalist reduced the cost of enchantments by 1 generic mana, enabling the casting of enchantments a turn earlier. Generous Visitor pumped any creature, including himself, whenever an enchantment hit the battlefield, and Kami of the Transscience got bigger and bigger as more enchantments entered the battlefield. When these 3 creatures happened on the battlefield together, it was basically game over. In 8th position, the Mono White Spells, Talia Guardian of Traben, Wedding Announcement, and Adeline Resplendent Qatar. If the color white have become a powerhouse in Standard and mono white decks started to dominate, was thanks to these 3 spells. Talia Guardian of Traben could drastically slow any non-creature spell strategy like blue-white control, mono-black, and mono-red. Wedding Announcement was a spell that white was waiting for, could add creatures to your board, could draw you cards, and when transformed, pumped your creatures. Adeline Resplendent Qatar is a nasty creature to deal with. She gets stronger depending on the number of creatures you control, plus can provide you additional human tokens. When combined together, these 3 spells paved your way for an easy win. In 7th position, Farewell and Hbreaker Horror. What do Farewell and Hbreaker Horror have in common? They are both considered as board wipes. Farewell, it's all in the name. Just say farewell to all your creatures, artifacts, enchantments, graveyard, and probably your game. It's a very annoying board wipe, as nearly everything gets exiled and not just destroyed. Functioned perfectly in decks that focused on planeswalkers. On the other hand, Hbreaker Horror, it's not really a board wipe, but it's a very powerful and disruptive card. Its flash ability allows for instant speed plays which can easily surprise opponents. Apart from the fact that it couldn't be countered, it could easily counter every spell you play and could bounce anything you had on the battlefield. Once Hbreaker Horror hits the battlefield, if you couldn't get rid of it ASAP, it was basically game over. In 6th position, the Monoblue Spells, Memory Deluge, Fading Hope, and Make Disappear. While we are talking about Hbreaker Horror, we cannot not mention what enabled the creature. Memory Deluge, choose and draw 2 needed cards, plus recast it for its flashback ability. Fading Hope, bounce any creature, and if its mana value was 3 or less, scry that needed card. Make Disappear, one of the most counter spell played in Standard, low cost and could easily counter an early play. These 3 together made mono blue and blue white control decks very powerful, annoying and difficult to play against. In 5th position, Brutal Qatar. How many creatures were exiled thanks to this human soldier werewolf? Played in various decks, mono white, Orzo Midrange, and lately in Azorius Soldiers, Brutal Qatar served as a removal spell and at the same time as an additional creature on the battlefield. And when day becomes night, Brutal Qatar transformed into Moon Range Brute, which made it difficult to attack and at the same time threatening to flip and steal another creature at any time. In 4th position, Invoke Despair. There was a time when casting Invoke Despair meant you turned around the game in your favor and paved your way to victory. Invoke Despair has long been a deck-defining card serving as a primary win condition. It can remove your opponent's permanents or deal damage to them if they have nothing to remove, making it incredibly flexible. Invoke Despair replaces a lot of 1-for-1 removal, as why you would play a card that can only remove one type when Invoke Despair can take out 3 at the same time. It is difficult to find ample counterplay to black strategies, as it is an effective card to cast on empty boards and preys upon the enchantments and planeswalkers that are historically effective against these type of heavy removal strategies. No surprise, it got eventually banned. In 3rd position, Rakdos, Fable of the Mirror Breaker and Blood Tide Harvester. Fable of the Mirror Breaker did too many generically good things, like generating resources via treasure tokens and filtering cards out of your hand. With the arrival of Atraxa Grind Fire in Phyrexia All Will Be One, Mirror Breaker's utility only increased, as it was an easy way to dump Atraxa into your graveyard, ready to be a great reanimation target. When Fable of the Mirror Breaker was eventually banned, nobody was surprised. Another very important piece in this deck was Blood Tide Harvester. Blood Tide Harvester is a strong 2-mana vampire that comes with a blood token, allows early trades, and can even kill larger creatures later in the game thanks to its activated ability. Paired with Reflection of Kiki-Chiki, this card was a menace. In 2nd position, the Wandering Emperor. Your opponent has 4 mana open, including 2 planes. It's your attacking phase. What do? Attack with everything. Attack with your best creature or toss in your token. That's how powerful the Wandering Emperor is. A planeswalker with flash, meaning that you could cast her at any time and being able to use her abilities at any time. She opened a whole new world of play patterns that any planeswalker has never really had before. Her +1 could pump 1 target creature and give it first strike, ideal for defense and especially in combat. Her -1 could create a 2/2 white soldier creature token with vigilance, again ideal for defense and especially in combat. And her best, or in our case worst ability, the -2, exile target tapped creature you gain to life. The reason why everyone is afraid of attacking when their opponent has 4 open mana. In 1st position, let's do a drum roll. Meet Hook Massacre. What I can say more about this card? Board Control has the potential to deal damage to all creatures on the battlefield, which can serve as a powerful board control tool. Flexibility. It allows you to choose the value of X, which determines the amount of damage it deals to creatures and planeswalkers. This flexibility allows you to tailor its effects to the specific board state, making it adaptable to different situations. Synergy. Meat Hook Massacre synergize well with certain cards or strategies, like sacrificing creatures or wiping out your own creatures to deal lethal damage. Late game potential. It can be practically effective in the late game when the battlefield is crowded with creatures. It can potentially swing the game in your favor by wiping out your opponent's creatures or planeswalkers, leaving you with a dominant board presence. No wonder the card was banned after massive complaints. So these are my top 10 cards that I will definitely not miss from this rotation. Leave me a comment below which card or cards you are happy that it's finally out of standard. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more and more interesting videos about Magic the Gathering and the collectible world.